Hello and welcome to the Astrology Forecast. My name is Sage. Here is your eye into the sky, letting you know what the cosmic events are for the week, why they matter, and how you can use this information in your everyday life. Thank you guys so much for your patience. I know this forecast is being uploaded a little later than it was expected, but we are in the midst of the eclipse portal, and if you heard last week's forecast, then you know to expect the unexpected. Lots has unfolded, and I'm sure many of our lives since the 14th when we initially had that solar eclipse in Libra. So I know last week I did a quick check-in. How's it going, right? Because I know eclipse season can feel very chaotic. Sometimes it can feel exciting. Sometimes it can feel scary. So again, always encourage you guys to do some reflection, right? Think about what's been happening in your life. In my life, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw on Instagram if you follow me there. If you don't, definitely go ahead and check out my Instagram. But I have some very exciting news to share as I did get engaged last week. It's so funny because during the last eclipse portal, I had some major life endings happen. And now during this eclipse portal, I'm having a major life beginning. And, if you go back and listen to last week's forecast, I was talking about eclipse season and even what was happening during last week. And one of the things that I said was expect the unexpected. And it's interesting going back and even as an astrologer, listening to what was spoken about and being like, man, that is on point. Like, I, of course, wasn't even expecting what happened to me. So very happy and grateful for what has transpired in my life, and just really excited for this next chapter. So with that being said, welcome to Scorpio season. I know a lot of us out here have been waiting patiently, as the Scorpion is very good with patience, for this season to happen. It happened, we just had the sun enter into Scorpio on Monday, the 23rd. Quick announcement regarding Scorpio season. I do offer discounts during Scorpio season for everybody whose sun sign is Scorpio. I have a 50% off discount for solar return readings. Solar return is simply a birthday chart. So it's a chart that's in effect for 1 year, and it will tell you essentially what to expect for the upcoming 12 months. I also offer a 30% discount for birth chart readings. Again, if you've never had a birth chart reading and it's your season, you have a birthday this season, this Scorpio season, I really encourage a birth chart reading, as this is a once in a lifetime opportunity and reading to really understand what it is that makes you who you are. Birth charts are extremely insightful and they really unfold over the course of one's life. So understanding all of the components of a birth chart is the very foundation we all need for astrology. From there, solar return readings. I also offer monthly forecast readings. If you are interested in learning about what to expect for the month of November, definitely hit the link and go ahead, schedule a personal forecast reading, a monthly forecast reading. This is a personal look into your chart and seeing what planets are going to be activating different parts of your chart, aka different parts of your life. So what to expect in November. We actually have November 1st coming up very quickly next week. So if you are interested in getting a heads up as to what to expect, come chat with me. I would love to find out more about your life and what's happening for you and share in what's going on with the stars. All right, so let's dive in. Today is all about Scorpio. We have two major cosmic events for this week. And again, every single month when the sun enters into a new zodiac sign, I do an all about that sign discussion. So that way, if you are a Scorpio, if you love a Scorpio, or simply you just want to understand more about the current zodiacal season, I highly encourage checking out these particular forecasts as I do a deep dive into that particular sign. We also are ending this week with a bang, so please stay tuned till the end. You will not regret it. We have a very potent full moon. It's actually an eclipse happening at the end of this week. Lots to be ready for, to anticipate, and to have awareness of, because eclipses are no joke. All right, so let's dive into all about Scorpio. On Monday, October 23rd, the sun left the sign of Libra and entered into the sign of Scorpio. This is very important for a number of reasons. We went from the sign of Libra, which is all about perfect harmony and union, right? We see Libra as the sign of relationships. People often will meet their partners during Libra season or get married or engaged during Libra season. And there is a reason for that because Libra represents that divine masculine, that divine feminine, right? The two scales coming together as one. Libra is known for peace and harmony and making sure that everybody is okay and happy and content, right? It's the mediator of the zodiac. And then, of course, we go from Libra season to Scorpio season. And this is where things go a little bit more intense, right? We turn it up a notch. So, Scorpio season, Scorpio is a fixed water sign, okay? It's traditionally ruled by Mars. You might have also heard that its ruler is Pluto. That is true if you follow modern astrology. And Scorpio actually has more than one animal totem. Of course, the scorpion is the one that most of us know Scorpio for. However, we also have the phoenix and the eagle. I will be talking about especially that phoenix here in just a minute as we dive into Scorpio energy. So, before I get into all of the nitty gritty of Scorpio, we're going to take a moment to look at the symbol of Scorpio or the glyph of Scorpio. Okay, this is the symbol we use to basically represent the sign. So, I have a whiteboard here, you guys can see it, and I'm going to try to get the ring light out of it. There we go. And so, basically, what we're seeing here is the symbol for Scorpio. So Scorpio symbol looks very similar to the symbol for Virgo. And it's funny because both of these look like the letter M, and the letter M is used because this actually relates to the Hebrew word for mem, and mem, M-E-M, means water. So we talked a little bit about why that's the case for Virgo. You're probably like, but Virgo is an earth sign. Why does it have water connotations? I did talk about that on that forecast. And that was actually on my Instagram before I joined YouTube. So if you are interested in that, check out my Instagram. But now that we're in Scorpio season, as we know, this is a water sign. But what's different about this particular symbol versus the Virgo one is right here. Instead of it being what looks like a fish, we actually have this stinger or this arrow. All right. So in many ways you can interpret this, but few ways that make the most sense, I think, is number one, this is the scorpion tail, right? This is the stinger. It's that sharp end to water, which Scorpio represents. It also can be looked at as the Sagittarius arrow, okay, and you can kind of see that behind me right here, because as we know, Sagittarius season follows after Scorpio season, and so there's a bit of a blend between those two energies. And a little bit about the scorpion, because I know a lot of us know of the scorpion as the animal totem for Scorpio, which is true. But why? If you think about it, this is a water sign. So, how does it make sense that the symbol or the animal totem for this sign doesn't live in water? Right? Cancer, we have the crab. We know the crab lives on the beach and in the water. And then we've got the Pisces fish, which of course lives in water. So, why is it that this fixed water sign is represented by an animal that isn't in water? In fact, the scorpion lives in the desert where there is zero water, where we have some of the harshest conditions due to a lack of water. And really, guys, this can be unpacked for days. But in all actuality, as we dive in deeper, this might even make more sense. But really, Scorpio isn't afraid of the harsh realities of life. And so seeing the scorpion as the symbol for Scorpio sort of shows the complexity to this sign, and understand that the scorpion is built to survive in elements that are traditionally very tough, right? Scorpio energy, this is not one for the weak. We are really going down to the depths. So that scorpion, not only does it have to find a way to survive in a much more harsh or challenging environment, but we also are dealing with a sign that's very known for intensity. And that's why we've got this scorpion stinger ready to attack. And as we dive into Scorpio energy, you'll understand more why being ready for attack, in a sense, is a huge quality to Scorpio. So that's one thing to note about Scorpio energy is the scorpion. Now, I did mention the phoenix. And yes, the phoenix is actually another totem for Scorpio. It's not one that's often talked about. But if we consider a phoenix are known for basically dying and then rising from their ashes. It's this very regenerative process. And as we know, Scorpio is modernly ruled by Pluto. Pluto just happens to be the planet of regeneration. So, no coincidences here. Scorpio is a very regenerative sign. And that strength, that endurance to rise from its own ashes is very quintessential Scorpio. Not many signs have this alchemical ability to take all of the nastiness, all the darkness, right? The death, right, as represented by the ashes, and completely transform that into basically the light. So that's really a lot of what Scorpio represents. So Scorpio is a fixed water sign. Fixed water is water that's not moving, right? This is actually in the middle of the autumn season in the northern hemisphere, right after the sun has basically descended below the equator, and it's in its fall, hence why another word for autumn is fall. And that happened during Libra season. But now, Scorpio season, we're in that fixity, right? We're in the middle of this time of year when we're starting to get more and more into the darkness. I actually believe that daylight savings time is happening, I think, next week. Don't quote me on that, or honestly help me out in the comments, because I got to look at it myself. But I was told that. And so that's pretty interesting, because that, of course, represents darkness, which is literally a lot to do with Scorpio. So, fixed water, one thing that I always say about Scorpio being fixed water is that still water, right? Fixed water, still waters run deep. Still waters run deep. And this is very true for Scorpio. Some keywords for Scorpio are depth, intuition, mystery, secretiveness, intensity, sexuality, and power, right? Those are just some. There's tons more. But just to really, give us a good basis to what this sign is all about. And if you're a Scorpio listening right now, you're like, yep, that's me, right? Or maybe you know a Scorpio, you love a Scorpio, and you're like, yeah, I see that for sure. So, still water or fixed water, this is the water that isn't on the surface, right? Scorpio is not surface level energy, right? Scorpio is the one that goes down to the depths of the ocean, of the bottom of the sea. How many people explore the bottom of the ocean? Not many. Because as we know, there's a lot that can be lurking at the bottom that's honestly very scary. There's creatures, there's darkness, there's mysterious things going on down there that we might not be able to comprehend, nor do we really want to come face to face with it. But that's the thing about Scorpio and being a part of the zodiac. Every single sign in the zodiac has a certain quote unquote function, right? There's a certain role or position that each zodiacal sign plays within the 12 zodiac signs. And that's why every sign has its place. That's why no sign is better than another, because it's the law of one, right? They all need each other in order to make up this larger unit or this larger body of constellations, known as the zodiac. So Scorpio's function is essentially that transformative or that regenerative quality of life. This is the sign that really deals with the concept of life and death. And as we know, life is light, but death can be darkness. And this is an area that many people are too afraid to tap into, right? We understand why. But that's the thing. Scorpio's function here is to take that darkness and transmute it to light. I talk to a lot of Scorpios when I do readings, and one thing that I note in many people's charts that have a lot of Scorpio placements is that Scorpio can come with a lot of traumas. It can come with a lot of shadows and skeletons in the closet that, truthfully, most people would not be well equipped to deal with. And so I really take my hat off to all Scorpio. I really give you guys a lot of credit, because being Scorpio, having Scorpio energy, wherever it is, whether that be your sun, moon, or rising, or simply maybe other personal planets in your chart, this is an energy that isn't for the faint of heart, right? Scorpio, you are not afraid to go where other people are too afraid to go. Still water, fixed water. As we know, if water sits for too long, what happens to it? It gets murky. Maybe it starts to smell. And I don't mean that like Scorpios smell. I do not mean that. Don't quote me there. But what I'm saying is that there is energy behind still water that can feel scary. It can feel messy. It can feel dirty. It can feel dark. It can feel unfamiliar. But that's the thing. If you've got Scorpio, you know that this is an area that you are actually more well versed in than many people. fixed water, this is where you go down to the depths. And so one thing about Scorpio is that Scorpio is not afraid to go deep. This is why the intensity, the emotional intensity behind Scorpio is unmatched. We are traditionally ruled by Mars in this sign. Mars is the planet of battle and willpower and force, right? And taking action. And another sign that Mars rules is Aries. And initially you might think that Aries and Scorpio are very different energies. One is a lot of fire and Scorpio is a lot of water. But the thing is that this is the water that's like a tsunami, right? It builds up its power and then it unleashes this massive energy, this massive wave that's almost like going to knock you off your feet, basically. And the difference between Scorpio energy and Aries energy is, well, number of things, but one is that Aries energy, right? Mars in Aries is all about like taking action based upon extrinsic motivation, right? Like I see something, I want to go after it. I'm going to do what I can do to win and be the best and, basically like win the fight. Scorpio, on the other hand, comes from a much more intrinsic place, right? Mars is still taking action in Scorpio. Scorpio, if you've got Scorpio, you're a fighter. You're a fighter, but you don't come off as a fighter. There's that air of mystery to Scorpio that's like, you're not going to see through me. If you've ever played poker with a Scorpio, shout out to my sister, you know that there is like a lot of calculation. Like she'll play the game and it's like she's the one of the very few people that's actually going to bluff because she's got that poker face. And interestingly enough, my fiance now, it's fun to say that by the way, is also not a Scorpio. He's an Aries, but he's also ruled by Mars. So when we play family poker, I've got my sister and my fiance both ruled by Mars, and they're the only two people at the table that will bet it all, that will bluff, that will basically like do things that make everybody else say, "Whoa, you sure? I wasn't expecting that." Like they'll put all the chips on the table. And all of a sudden the rest of us are looking around like, man, do I have to match that? And of course the rest of us have a little bit more water. There's a Libra placement, Pisces placement, myself, Capricorn. It's like, seeing how this all plays out. Totally going on a tangent there. But if you've ever played games with your family and their signs, it's really cool to see how that all manifests. But the point here is that Scorpio and Aries, but mainly Scorpio, right? Because that's what we're focused on today, is here for the long term. This is the difference, again, between these two signs and how they're both ruled by Mars. But Scorpio, the difference here is that it has a lot more longevity, a lot more endurance. The staying power of Scorpio is truly one that no other sign, maybe Taurus, and we're going to look at that later on into the forecast, but this is a sign that really is here to win. And the Aries has that force. It might win initially, but if that Scorpio is beaten by that Aries, you best to believe the Scorpio is going to take 10 months to perfect its strategy and calculate exactly what it needs to do. It's plotting, right? And then eventually it's when it strikes, it strikes. And that's the thing with the Scorpio and the Scorpion. As we know, the Scorpion has this stinger on its tail. But what it does is it collects all of its poison or its power and it pushes it to the back of its tail and it holds it there. And then when it's ready, after much observation, it strikes. And that's the key with Scorpio. Scorpios have a beautiful ability to see right through to the truth and wait until the moment is right to take action, to strike. And that's the thing here. There's intensity, there's depth, and Scorpio's not afraid to go right head first through whatever it needs to go through. This is the sign of shadow work and trauma and basically seeing the pain and not being afraid to face it head on. That's something that I really respect with Scorpio, is that you understand as a Scorpio that by facing that pain head on the other side of that pain is transformation. And transformation is a major keyword to Scorpio because, like I said previously, we are transmuting or transforming the darkness into the light. And this is such an amazing quality that Scorpios have, the intuition of a Scorpio to be able to have that laser-like focus. Guys, these are like the lie detectors of the zodiac. Piece of advice, don't lie to your Scorpio friends. They will know. Because they've got that Mars energy that's very willing to basically have any sort of conflict necessary. They've got that laser-like focus, that intuition that says, I can see right down to the depths of your soul, which can be a bit intimidating, I must say. As somebody that does not have any Scorpio placements, y'all can be intimidating sometimes because you're unafraid to go and say what needs to be said and go down to the depths of whatever the truth is, pull it out and say, here it is. How many signs are willing to do that? Right? This is something that, again, not all the time is Scorpio at the center of attention. Scorpios, you love your privacy. You love to be more secretive. You like to hang back and observe and collect data, and then when that data is collected and sifted through and kind of, integrated into who you are, you really use your power to unleash your force, but only when the moment's right. Now, on a positive side, a Scorpio is will take you down through the depths of your soul. Like a Scorpio is going to introduce you to parts of yourself that you did not know existed. And this can lead to a lot of intimacy, a lot of emotional connection, a lot of depth, transformation, and a bit of intensity. Now, on the other side of the Scorpio range, we've got, the more vengeful Scorpio, right? Scorpio has a tendency to repress emotion. And sometimes with that repressed emotion comes this almost manipulative energy that's like, I'm holding on to this grudge and I'm taking vengeance, I'm taking action. There's a possessiveness here that says, like, you're not going to mess with me. And yes, it might not come right away, but when it does come, be ready. And that's the thing. Don't mess with a Scorpio, because even though they might not react right away and you're like, okay, everything is fine, that's not always the case. If you're a Scorpio, you're probably shaking your head like, yep, I'm plotting. Like, you might not know it, but it's coming. And so that's something to be very aware of with Scorpio energy, is that this is not always energy that's going to be outright. It's not forthright. It's not what you see is what you get. That's Aries, right? That's Mars with Aries. But Mars and Scorpio is like, we are going to win the fight, but you won't see it coming. And so there's a sleuthiness to it. There's, again, a mystery to Scorpio, but that mystery is backed by intensity and depth. And again, this intuition of Scorpio that can read a room, that can feel the energy before anybody, that can sort of, again, have that laser-like, zoomed in focus of what is real. This is not a superficial sign. That happens in Libra, and I love my Libras, no disrespect. But Libra is much more about keeping things surface level, right? Maybe kind of putting a glaze over it and saying, okay, that's good, everybody's happy, we'll say what needs to be said. Scorpio doesn't do that, right? Libra is all about the beautiful harmony of a relationship. But what happens when you've been in a relationship for a long time? You start to uncover and unpack some deeper traumas, some deeper wounds, some deeper maybe pain or burden, or just simply some more depth to that person that you did not see before, right? This is the murkiness that can come in relationships that needs to be worked through. Again, during Scorpio season, don't be surprised if all of a sudden you find yourself seeking more depth in whatever area of your chart you have Scorpio in. That's a common tendency. During Scorpio season this year, we have both the Sun, Mercury, and Mars all hanging out in this sign. So this is going to lead to a lot of intensity, a lot of depth, and a lot of awareness when it comes to what is true and what is just simply fake. And Scorpio does not have time for fake. So that is Scorpio. And one last thing I want to say about Scorpio is that it is the sign of sexuality. It does rule over the sexual organs. But this is also because, as we know, sex will lead to regeneration, right? This is that transformative quality, the quality of creation. It's also a very intimate process where, there's a lot more depth and intimacy. Again, Scorpio is not for the faint of heart. So Scorpio is willing to go down to the depths and, on a physical level, that of course is the genital region, but even on an emotional level, right? We're going to the real core of the relationship, something that most people don't see. And that's what Scorpio energy represents. So if you're a Scorpio and this resonated with you, amazing. If you have more things and more thoughts to share about Scorpio, please comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on Scorpio energy and how you see it showing up in your life. If you're a Scorpio and you are interested in either a solar return reading or a birth chart reading, hit the link and schedule that with me. I would love to dive into your chart and go down deep, baby. Really see what's lurking under the surface, as I know all my Scorpios are ready to go there. All right, let's go ahead and conclude with our major cosmic event, not only of the week, of the month, but of the year, guys. This is something that we've been looking ahead at since January, when we started to see what was transpiring in 2023. We looked at the eclipses, okay? Quick refresher on eclipses. Eclipses are all about major life beginnings and major life endings. Eclipses are transformative times when often things are plopped into our lap. I like to call them WTF moments. And it can come out of the blue. It can feel chaotic. One piece of advice I'll always share is to surrender and to not use this time for rituals and ceremony and manifestation. This is not the moment for that. This is when the universe has taken control. They're in the universe, God, higher power, whatever you believe in, is in the driver's seat during eclipse season. And in this period of time in between the 14th and the 28th, when we're in this eclipse, quote unquote, portal between these two eclipses, this is what we're experiencing. So eclipses do happen every 6 months, and they happen in pairs. We had a new moon eclipse in Libra, and that was the first Libra eclipse we had because the nodes, the north node, the south node, did shift into Aries and Libra back in July. But now we actually have a full moon partial lunar eclipse happening at 5 degrees Taurus. And this is pretty significant. Okay, this is something that we've been experiencing now since end of 2021, beginning of 2022, when the north node shifted into Taurus and the south node shifted into Scorpio. And so think back on what's been happening in your life since basically the beginning of 2022. Big recommendation here is to really look at what houses you've got. Both Taurus and Scorpio, they're going to be opposite houses in the chart, because this will give you much more understanding about what area of your life has seen radical change over the last year and a half. All right, so this is the very last eclipse that we're having of these eclipses. Again, we've been having Scorpio Taurus eclipses happening every 6 months for the last year and a half. So this is a story that's been unfolding since that point in time. And now Scorpio and Taurus, I really find this a very interesting axis because, we've got Scorpio. We just discussed Scorpio. It's all about intensity and depth. It's a water sign, so it's intuitive. It's more tapped into that sixth sense energy. It's receptive. It's feminine, as Taurus is feminine too. But, Scorpio is much more spiritually inclined, right? This is that much more almost, I want to say, like feminine lunar energy that's a lot more repressed, right? It's like it's not out there for the world to see. But Scorpio is all about the spiritual, right? Scorpio, this is all about spiritual maintenance. How do I take care of my soul? Now, opposite to Scorpio, we have Taurus. Taurus is another fixed sign, but this is now a fixed earth sign. And being a fixed earth sign, it's much more practical, much more tangible. Taurus is a lot to do with the five senses. It's all about growth and expansion. Taurus season happens during the spring when the world in the northern hemisphere is coming to life, versus Scorpio season happens when we are descending into the darkness of winter. So vastly different energies, but they are opposing one another. They're basically sister signs. And Taurus energy, again, is all about the physical. It's all about the sensuality. Both of these signs are very sensual, by the way. And so if sensuality has been a theme, especially regarding whichever part of your life and your chart it's been showing up in, that's to be expected. And I don't mean this in an intimate way. I mean this in experiencing the world through the five senses, right? Being able to understand the depths of your soul, but also the depths of your experience in this physical body. Both are extremely important for overall health and well-being, but they're vastly different and they require two different processes to really take care of each one. Now, this eclipse is very significant because it's a full moon, right? So number one, a full moon is always a time when the energy is radically heightened. Full moons are when the sun and the moon are on opposite sides of the earth, and therefore the sun's light is shining onto the moon, creating this full moon. It's illuminating the full moon. But during an eclipse, we actually have the sun, moon, and earth aligning in a very specific way to where the earth is actually going to be blocking the sun's light and we won't be able to see the full moon. Now, this will be exact at 4:24 p.m. Eastern time. So I don't know how many of us can actually witness this firsthand, but definitely biggest recommendation is to check out YouTube. Usually YouTube will be streaming the eclipse, and if it's not happening in your neck of the woods, you can still see live footage of where it is occurring in the world and be able to witness that event. And by the way, if you did look at the ring of fire from the solar eclipse that we had on the 14th, it was absolutely amazing, gorgeous. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go Google it, October 14th, 2023, solar eclipse ring of fire, and you'll see photographs where the moon was directly in front of the sun, but it was just like a little bit smaller than the sun. so we could still see the ring of what they call fire or glowing ring of light surrounding the moon. Absolutely spectacular. So with this eclipse, again, we are seeing a big culmination. Full moons are already culminating points, right? We begin the energy or the new cycle with a new moon, and we end it with a full moon. So full moons already bring about endings, finales, right? It's the energy coming to manifest. And so full moons often can feel hectic and crazy because things are coming into light. The moon is literally coming into light, and that experience in our sky, in our solar system, is translating down here on Earth. But the difference of this eclipse is that it's supercharged. This is not your average full moon. And so again, it already brings about major energy, but having this be an eclipse is going to heighten that times 10. Not only that, but it's the final eclipse of the Taurus Scorpio that we've been experiencing since the beginning of 2022, which means that this is the true, not season finale, but this is like the series finale, right? This is the last episode. When, as we know, if you've watched Netflix episode or series before, the last episode's always the most intense, right? There's always the most excitement, the most events happening. You know, people are dying, babies are being born, the plot twist happens. You know, the end of the series is like, oh my gosh, you know, it's always like that because they save the best for last, right? They kind of tie it up in that last episode. This is what we're experiencing in our cosmic sky on Saturday, October 28th. And again, please look at where you've got Taurus in your chart. That will be major important because that's going to give you a lot more specificity as to where in your life this is showing up. Now, another thing about this eclipse is that it will be opposing both Mercury and Mars, which are conjunct or basically together in the sign of Scorpio. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication. It's our mouth and our mind. It's all about how we think and how we express our thoughts. And Mars is all about taking action. Mars, as we know, is not afraid of a fight. Mars is the planet of battle and willpower. And so when we've got both of these planets together in Scorpio, which I don't have to explain anymore because I just did a whole description about Scorpio, we know that we are not going to be sugarcoating things, right? Mercury and Mars together in Scorpio is like, I'm going to give it to you raw, real, and honest, and it might sting, but it's for your own good, right? That's really the MO here for Mercury and Mars conjunct in Scorpio. But now oppose that with the full moon in Taurus. This is a very interesting eclipse. This is one where if things haven't been brought to light, if that conversation hasn't been had, if those words haven't been expressed, whether or not they are pleasant or not, it will happen. So please expect the unexpected. This is why we listen to these forecasts, because you are now equipping yourself with the armor of awareness. And suddenly, when things do occur on or around the 28th, you're like, yep, I knew this was coming. You might not know the specifics, right? You don't know the how of how it's going to happen, but you know why it's happening. And sometimes that can be so comforting. Speaking as somebody that has experienced major situations regarding eclipses that were like, I don't know if I can handle this, knowing that it was happening in correlation with an eclipse gives you peace of mind to understand that this is happening within a larger cosmic framework. You are, within the fabric of our universe, and therefore the energy of the universe is affecting you. And therefore, yeah, this is what's going to happen. Don't be surprised. Know that it's not forever, it's just for now. And eventually, as we progress through, the next eclipses, which will be in Aries and Libra, the story will again unfold, maybe in a bit different way because it's going to be activating different areas of our life. But still, eclipses will work themselves out, is what I'm really getting at here, right? There is always an ending to the story. And honestly, this Saturday is the ending to the story. If you feel like maybe you haven't seen the ending of the story, like you're wondering how it's going to end, what's the cherry on top here? Where am I going to find clarity? This is the weekend where that will happen. It might feel crazy. Emotions might run high. Again, Mercury and Mars is not afraid of a fight, and Mercury is our words. So, fighting words, don't be afraid of that happening. Don't be surprised if it does, whether that comes from you or somebody else. But also know that the chaos of eclipse season is all happening for a larger reason, right? These eclipses are moments of fate and destiny, and when things happen during an eclipse and they're dropped into our lap, we pay attention because we are forced to, but know that they do work themselves out over time. And last but not least, I do just want to note that if you are a fixed sign, meaning a Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, or Scorpio, this is sort of like that ending finale that you've been waiting for. Fixed signs have gotten a lot of heat over the last year and a half. Having these eclipses happening in fixed signs meant that every fixed sign, all four, was really getting hit with this eclipse energy. We even had Venus retrograding in Leo over the summer. That was another fixed sign. And of course, we do have Pluto entering Aquarius, so we're not fully out of the woods here on my fixed signs. But know that this final eclipse in Taurus, this series finale in Taurus, is really going to be, kind of tying that bow on all of the situations that have been unfolding for all of us over the last year and a half. But it might have felt particularly intense for my fixed signs out there. So if this can, I hope it does give you a glimmer of hope to know that the end is in sight. And we are going to be moving into cardinal eclipses. So all my cardinal signs, Cancer, Aries, Capricorn, and Libra, we're ready for it, right? We're gearing up. We already had one happen in Libra that just happened on the 14th. Now we are finally ending the fixed eclipses. And again, we will have another year and a half of cardinal eclipses. So again, if you've been experiencing major eclipse energy, if you have had major life beginnings and endings happen during this eclipse portal, such as myself, right? It's so exciting sometimes, but also not, right? And I've experienced the other side of it where things weren't exciting. They were hard and they were scary and they were sad. But know that that's all part of the process. And sometimes, just sometimes, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. I love that phrase because it's so true. Sometimes we need that power of perspective to know that we're in something that maybe we can't fully see at the moment. And I think the beautiful part of astrology is it gives us the power of perspective, helps us to understand where we fit into this larger cosmic story. And hopefully it does give us some hope to know that it will eventually, transpire, right? It will eventually work itself out. And the ending of the story always comes to pass. It's just a matter of time. So I hope this information was of value to you. I know eclipse season, it can be quite intense, and full moons are already intense. So if this weekend feels extremely intense, that's to be expected. I note that typically the energy of a full moon will start to come in around 3 days prior. So the full moon being on Saturday, if you start to feel the energy of this full moon eclipse around Wednesday, don't be shocked. Just be aware and know that it is going to be sort of peaking around Saturday and then dissipating from there. So again, thank you all for tuning in. If you did get value from this forecast, please go ahead. Please like the video. That is super, super helpful. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and also click the notification bell so you can stay up to date on every single cosmic event happening each week. As we know, I do post these forecasts every Sunday, so that way you can be aware of what to expect. So I thank you all for tuning in. I wish you so much love and light, especially during this eclipse season, and I will see you all again next Sunday.